Ladies and gentlemen, this is wonderful, yet another meeting at the Green Room, peaceful space for progressive minds. We started this series here at Williams College to let people talk, to let people not scream at each other, but meet and find a way in which we can not only survive but thrive these days, these times. So far, it was very, very rewarding to see how many students and community and folks who were attending the session took advantage of those meetings, kind of being inspired or finding new ideas for the future. Well, today is Halloween. So just briefly from my end, I was freaking out this morning. I felt like, my God, we have Chris coming and we have Halloween. What if he will not show up, or maybe he will show up with one of those Halloween masks, like Richard Nixon, or maybe even more scarier president. You know what I mean? Let's drop it. Hey, he's back again. He's on our screen, and this is my great privilege to have Chuck with us, and also Will and True, our students, my teaching assistants this semester, who will moderate this session. So Will, True, Chris, the space is yours.
All right, Will and True, you got anything to say before I just say something?
Yeah, really quick. Hi, everyone. My name's Will. I'm a sophomore here at Williams College. I'm Omer's TA. And along with Mr. True Fam, I'm really excited to have the privilege to be moderating this panel with Chris Chalk. Chris is an American television, film, and theater actor. He's been featured in roles such as Lucius Fox in Gotham, Clemens in 12 Years a Slave, and most recently as LAPD officer Paul Drake in HBO's Perry Mason. He's played journalist Gary Cooper in The Newsroom, Marine Tom Walker in Homeland, and he's appeared in Law and Order, among many others. Today's session is going to be a little different from our previous ones, and we're really, really excited to see how it goes. So in a moment, we'll turn it over to Chris, and he's going to give a brief introduction, and then we're going to move directly into Q&A. And for most of our 2-hour session today, that's what we'll be focusing on. We've collected quite a few questions from students ahead of time, so we'll have a lot of those to ask, and we're really looking forward to a lot of audience participation. And if you have a question, feel free to, you can either message it directly to True and I, raise your hand, just whatever we want to do. And we're looking forward to having a great conversation today.
Yeah, good stuff, Will. And I'm True. I'm also a sophomore, one of Omar's TAs. And I'll be co-moderating this discussion with Mr. Will Titus. So looking really forward to a great discussion here.
Oh, shit. I'm set up. It's my turn now, right? Okay, so I'll tell you more about myself. Okay, I try to make it quick because I just feel like you probably have I know so much more than you. So why talk about myself too much when I can talk about, answer the questions you might have on your heart or mind or spirit, if that's my skill set. If I have the answer, I'll answer. If I don't, I'll make something up. All right, so my name is Chris Chalk, born in Asheville, North Carolina. I've been acting since I was a kid, but not for money. I didn't understand it was a job because I was never that smart growing up until college-ish is when I got kind of smart. But I still didn't learn to think for myself. So that's my first bit of advice for all of you is learn to think for yourself because no one gives a shit about you. You're literally running a potentially Fortune 500 business and you have to understand that you're the boss, and everyone will try to program you that you're not the boss. They will try to tell you you need your agent, your manager, but those are all my employees. They all literally work under in my company. And the same applies to you, though it will not feel that way. Skipping on, I went to University of North Carolina at Greensboro. I was in their BFA program. I think it was a year before I graduated, I ended up booking this 3-man physical comedy called Slastic, where we toured France, Spain, Belgium, Luxembourg, and Switzerland. It was about a different city every night. It was awesome. But then when I came back to graduate school, I was less cooperative than I was before because I knew the real world. And I was like, you guys don't know what the hell you're talking about. So I wasn't the best senior year student. I tried to bomb my senior auditions so that I could just go work in New York, but they ended up casting me in 2 things and I was trying to not get cast in any. I then went to New York and was depressed for 6 months. I gained 61 pounds, I think it was. And I'm 5'9", so it did not look good. And it's not about being fat or skinny. It's like literally, if I'm thinking as a business person, what I looked like, no one wanted to look at. And that's how we have to think as business people. Also as artists and beautiful, loving, genuine human beings. But I'm assuming you have that figured out and you understand that journey. The way to succeed in here is to merge the business understanding with an immense amount of art, individuality, and credibility. What else? I worked at the W New York Times Square. I was a reader for Telsey and Company for 8 years. I was a member of Labyrinth Theater Company. Now I'm a member, but I don't really, I don't serve them. They don't serve me, but I'm still a member. Kind of an asshole way to say that, but it's true. Like was mentioned, I've done, started with a bunch of Law and Orders, did a lot of theater, Roundabout, Lincoln Center, Manhattan Theater Club twice. And then Broadway, I did the revival of Fences with myself, Denzel Washington, Viola Davis, Michael T. Williamson, Russell Hornsby, Stephen McKinley Henderson, Sasha and Eden. And I like to say all their names because it doesn't matter how shiny a person is, that they like to, it gets the adrenaline going until you watch, until they fart. And then you're like, oh, right, you're gross too. So that's why it's important that I say everyone's name and not just the shiniest names, because that's how I operate. I've been blessed to be able to continue to operate that way and to get better at it too. Then after I did Fences on Broadway, that was then Lincoln Center. And then I started doing more film and television, and that's the Homelands, the newsrooms, it's a bunch of stuff. That is to say, I've been a part of a Pulitzer Prize winning, Tony Award winning, Emmy Award winning, Oscar Award winning film or play or television show. Now I don't have any for myself yet, so all that can honestly go F itself, because my goals are to have my own. Even though they don't matter, but they do to me, just because it gives me access to business and more opportunities and a lot more freedom. And that's the goal for me personally, is to have a lot of freedom. I will say these things as the base of what I believe in. I think you have to take full responsibility. I have to read them because I ramble. Take full responsibility. You are the boss. You can learn from everyone and you're guided by people around you, and you're not better than anybody, but you're the boss. You have to be the person making the decision, because at the end of the day, it's your naked body on the screen or on the stage or in the audio booth. Learn the job, learn what it really means to be an actor. Literally, there's so many elements. One of the things I learned weirdly was I was poor. Oh my God, I was so poor. I was doing so much theater, which is just no money at all. And what's his name? It'll come to me in the middle of this. But he is in charge of looping, which is the ADR for background in movies. That section of looping, he's the boss of pretty much in all of New York at the time. He was the guy that did all of the background, which means, like the person sweeping in the back who's mumbling to someone, you don't want to pay background people because then they get another rate. They get a whole bump up, they get residuals. You pay assholes like me to come in for a few minutes. Me and it's a group from 8 to 12 people, and we just improv. I can't believe I got paid for this. I still get residuals for this. We improved what was anything on screen that the main people weren't saying, we did. And so I made a decent amount of money doing that at first, but that's a job like no one really knows exists unless you do the work to look and see like, oh, this is another way. This is one of many ways I can pay my rent while I'm trying to, be the biggest name off Broadway. Don't know why that would be your goal, but there's no shame in your goals. Learn the job, I said. Learn yourself, meaning you got to get to know yourself. You got to know what breaks you, what makes you, what you're willing to do, what you want. And it kind of goes next to my goal list, because if you don't know what you want, you're not going to get what you want. And if you're waiting for the industry to give you something, you will be background for the rest of your life. They will give you nothing. You must literally, I remember there was a point in time when it sucked. I was booking co-stars, just gangbusters, easiest thing in the world. Come on, say a few lines, boom, 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 get paid $3,000-ish, something like that. And I was like, okay, but I've done this. And it was one of the harder things was at that point, I didn't know, like, you have to stop doing that at some point. And you have to start building an actual career and stop waiting for it to be built for you. Because again, they don't care about you. Man, they don't care. But I mean that in the best way. I don't mean they hate you. I just mean they're worried about their money. They're worried about discovering the next person. They're worried. They want you to win so that they can solve their own problems, which is casting. Sorry. Now, what was I saying? Well, what was I saying?
You were talking about goals and
Yes. No, keep going. What was I saying, Will?
Talking about goals, your values. We got onto casting and how you got to take what you want rather than just expect to be given.
Yes, which is a part of learning yourself, because like you got to sit down. I mean, that's the beauty I think we've all had in quarantine, is you don't have a choice. You're really getting to know your limits. You're getting to know what you really want to do. I had one of my clients. I do a lot of acting coaching. One of my clients, he quit. I'm not sure that, I don't know if I support it, but I also don't care. It's his life. He quit his accounting degree and just started acting because he was like, if I'm going to die tomorrow, I'd rather be doing something I love. Like if I'm going to catch a virus and disappear, I'm going to start acting today. So that is the element of just, you really got to really investigate yourself. And I mean like emotional range, anything from like what makes you happy to makes you cry, but also like what weather you like, because that goes right into setting your goals. If you hate the cold, New York is not for you. The middle of the country is not for you. It's freaking freezing. But also if you hate earthquakes and fires and smog, LA's not for you. Because those things aren't going anywhere at all. They're getting worse. Take business classes, because you got to learn how to manage and make your money. You got to learn resource management, because if you're butted up against the wall financially, then you lose your freedom. Then you're going to have to do, maybe one of your goals is on NCIS, but that's not a goal of mine. I think that's purgatory. It's a very rich purgatory. You can get rich off of CBS shows, but that's not like an artistic outlet. And so what's my point? So I had to learn resource management, how I manage my energy, my time, and everything, so that I could best choose where I wanted to go and have the most amount of freedom. Set goals, be specific. Practice. I cannot say those two things enough. Be specific about who you are and what you want, and just don't stop practicing, because you suck. You're awful. You're not good at this. And you can't be good at this until you practice. The only difference between you and Meryl Streep is she's had practice and she gets paid to practice. Only difference is she literally has limitless amounts of practice compared to you. She's no deity. She's just a regular old woman. She's a really old woman who's regular. She's just regular. She just has done this and dedicated time to this on and off the screen. Practice is everything. Release what does not serve you. And I mean that fully. Like if you have an attitude problem, if you're a dick, that doesn't serve you in this industry. You will not do well. Nice people dominate this industry, because most of this is teamwork, and every single entity is depending on another entity to make the end of the day, whether that be film, television, or theater. We're all just trying to get it done before the sun goes down, which means we have to be a team. We have to work with each other. That doesn't mean like you're a pushover, because I'm not. I'm the worst. I say no to so many things. But I understand why I'm saying no, what I'm saying no to, and the point of my saying no. And I already understand myself and my limits, because I'm an old person, but I also thoroughly investigate myself. Be specific, I said, be authentic. That is, you are the only person that can do what you want to do. A lot of times when we audition, we approximate what other actors do, or we approximate what we think casting or production wants us to do. If I'm playing a cop, I'm going to play a cop instead of Will's cop. What is Will's cop compared to True's cop, compares to Alex cops, and so on and so forth. We have to be very specific and authentic, because Jack Nicholson is the only Jack Nicholson. That's a very weird reference. considering he hasn't acted in like 40 years. But he specifically, I always think about, because he's the only weird, and Christopher Walken, for example. But the world is filled with people whose names you don't know, but they especially if you haven't had the pleasure, the absolute pleasure, and I do say that even though I'm on the show, of watching Perry Mason, you'll see a lot of people who've done a lot of theater and film, and therefore they are impeccable character actors. And they're the only people that can do that. People like Shea Whigham. Man, if you don't know who Shea Whigham is, that's a career. This dude, you don't know his face, but you know his face, and he works every 15 to 20 minutes. Like, this dude is on every single show, and he doesn't even have a big range. That's the other thing I want to say. You don't even have to be that good at everything. You just have to be good at something. If you're good at something and you have your goals and you're specific and you go for it, you're going to get something at some point. I mean, I think you should expand your range as much as you possibly can. But I have a friend, this is awful, but she's not a good actress, but she definitely does things that I wouldn't do for roles, but she does. Like, and it's not my job to judge anybody. It's not my job. I don't give a shit. I don't care what anybody else does as long as they don't hurt people. But she knows exactly what she wants. Her want is celebrity. She wants to be famous through entertainment. And so instead of practicing acting, she practiced how to manipulate people, which is half of what this game is about when it gets to booking. Because talent is awesome. That gets them like, man, I really like you. But what is the extra thing you're going to do to I say manipulate their brains, to open their brains to the human being standing in front of them? Because the second you can remind them that they're a human and you're a human, you'll book, you'll win. It's the easiest thing in the world. Booking is so easy. Surround yourself with inspirational people, places, and things. You know that, but I have to say it. And I already said you don't have to be good at everything. That's the general gist of what I believe. And that took longer than I would have liked. So with that in mind, feel free to ask any specific questions you have. You can test my wisdom. And again, I'm not, take everything I say with, this is just one of the many millions of options. There are as many success stories as there are actors. There is unfortunately no direct path. None of it makes sense, but also the industry, though theater is centuries, millennia old, film and television is not that old. So the rules don't really matter. Okay, ask me questions.
So Chris, I want to jump back to a topic you brought up at the very beginning, about thinking for yourself, especially in this era with social media, and you have news and so many different outside factors trying to influence, how you think. How exactly can you make sure that you're thinking for yourself? What can you do to put yourself in a situation where you can effectively balance these sort of outside voices to come up with that authentic inner voice, inner thoughts, inner opinions, to be true to yourself on so many different things?
One of the answers, in my opinion, obviously, I'll try not to say in my opinion, because obviously I'm talking, so everything's in my opinion, but sometimes that puts people at ease. So in my opinion, turn it off. You know what's happening in the world. You know what things you follow on Instagram that don't serve you. You know what makes you feel jealous, what makes you feel, anything that makes you feel like a piece of shit, don't do it. You don't have to. That, like, you didn't start this country. You don't have to be so stressed out. This is your problem, in that it hits everybody and it will affect you on some level. But why carry it around like next door to you is the Secret Service about to shoot you? Like, take on what is yours and use the rest as inspiration. Oh, I don't want to look at myself. For some reason, it went to looking at my face. I can't do that. No, 1 second. No. That's too weird. I'm gonna look at Will. Good luck, Will. And then if you don't want to turn it off, I mean, really, if you don't spend time journaling and reflecting on the amount of input, because if we go into the idea of original thought, you'll spin. I actually did a tailspin, because I was like, what is my actual original thought? What do I actually believe? What was not programmed by my church, by my mama, by my daddy, by the absence of my father, by my abuse? Like, a lot of the things that, man, and it's really weird if you really dig down and go, wait, my dad is the one who taught me that. I don't believe that. That's a habit. So it's like, review your habits of belief. What do you actually believe? What do you think and do you feel? And then identify, and who taught me this? Do I need to hold on to it? I used to have a habit of, when I talked on the phone, I would get this incredible amount of anxiety and my throat would funnel and close up. And I was like, gosh, I'm definitely an introvert, but I'm more of an ambivert. So I can handle the extrovertism, but for some reason on the phone, and the more important the call, the more I would freeze up. And I was like, what is this? What is this? What is this? And then once I went to go visit my mother and I saw her and I went, holy shit, man, you did this to me. Whenever she gets on the phone, she has an incredible amount of anxiety. And it's not mine. I just learned it. And most of what we are is learned behavior in reaction to the things around us. So that gives us the ultimate freedom to change anything we want. Because why is it precious that I hold on to something that was my mom's, which was probably her mom's, which is ultimately from slavery? Let's be real. You know what I mean? Like, so we have to, like, all of us have these, not curses, but we have these things that are generational, that we have the option to take a pause, because we're all artists, bless us for that. And we can go, okay, what is mine? What do I need to hold on to? I had a girl in college, and awful tragedy, awful, awful tragedy. Both of her parents died when she was 11 in a car wreck. Like, you just can't fathom. However, she never utilized it for anything other than the weight of the emotional experience. And that's not a judgment, that everybody's got therapy in their own time. However, my pitch is to, if you have these deep, I've had tons of traumas. We don't even have to go into it, but promise, I've got them. If you got it, I probably got it too. I mean that universally. And like, a lot of them I dealt with myself, a lot of them I did with therapy. So that, and the reason is, one, there's no point in being triggerable. And that's the thing about taking in all these news cycles, right? Then we get these hard opinions and I have to be right. Why? My wife said to me once, she said, we had this friend and I broke up with him. It was the most adult thing I've done in the last probably 5 years. They're all done? Okay. Sorry, we're having demolition outside. And I was in a fight with this guy and she said, you know what, honey? I said, what? She said, only dummies argue with dummies. And I went, oh shit. Oh shit. What am I doing? You're right. And that literally changed everything. And another thing that changed, I know I'm going off of your question a bit, but one of my teachers, she said, this is long ago, she said, not everybody has to be your friend. And I think those two things are like the most important things ever. We care so much about what other people think that sometimes that's why we stay on the news cycle. That's why we stay on social media, so we can be hip on the newest thing. You know who's not on there? The richest people and the most successful people you know could give a shit about half the things that we're constantly absorbing. In fact, we're absorbing most of their fecal matter. Like, and so you got to really think, whose shit do you want to be putting in your mouth every day? No one's, I guess, but you know what I mean? Like on your Instagram feed, who are you following? Like, what is the purpose? Again, be specific. Why are you doing the things you're doing? Out of habit, or because you care, or because you want to show your cousin how smart you are and how political you are? If it don't matter, stop doing it. You're wasting your time. You get hit by a rocket tomorrow. Do you want to be like, man, I knew everything about that shitty election. So what? So what? Go vote. There you go. And help other people. But otherwise, stop absorbing stuff that doesn't matter to you. And I mean, fuck art. I mean, just for your own mental health. Leave it alone if it doesn't touch you. Next question.
Thank you so much for that, Chris.
Yeah, and if anybody else has questions throughout, just use the raise hand feature in the.
Alex has one. I saw him slip his little hand up.
Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah. So I think we've been beating around the bush about this a little bit. You've talked about it. Thank you for yourself. One of the questions I had was, as an actor, you're constantly encompassing different types of roles. You're looking for different types of motivations in these characters that don't necessarily align with what you believe in or how you feel. How do you maintain like a sense of self, and that's also like related to mental health and everything while going through this range of different roles?
Is that kind of like, how do you not get lost in the sauce, like lost in the character, but also in the ego of success?
Yeah.
I'm luckily surrounded by dope people who aren't impressed by me, so that helps. I have an incredible wife who is the reason that I started doing therapy this year. It went really bad, then it went really well. So that helps, but also I'm very clear on what I want and who I am, and I investigate it every single day. I really do. I sit with myself because I'm the most important person in my reality, and you're the most important person in your reality. And so I treat myself as such. I treat myself like a deity. I love myself. I bathe myself in information and what I enjoy, and it changes every day what I like. But I'm aware of it because I'm constantly reflecting back to myself. And I'll even, I even review if a belief system is still valid for me often. And it sucks because sometimes some things I thought I believed for like 15, 20 years come crumbling down, which is 2020, really. Most of this year has been going, oh man, I'm full of shit. And and I thought I wasn't. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is hard. This is so hard. Yet I had nothing but time to reflect and deal with myself and reflect on myself and be with myself and learn myself so that and I'm not a method person. I have a dear friend, Jeremy Strong, who is insanely talented and he's very method. I think he just got nominated. Did he win that Emmy? I think he won the Emmy this year for Succession. We've known each other for so long, so long. And I don't like gray hair. So that's why I'm not method, because I like to sleep at night. And so I like to leave all the stuff at work, whereas he brings all the work home. Why did I say that? Will, why did I say that?
You were speaking about method acting.
Yeah, but what was the point? Jesus, I'm on one.
I think we were talking about how, for you, method acting, it's you prefer to have a work-life balance that method acting doesn't so much afford you.
Will's my man. That's right, Will. What Will said. Will did it. Will said it. Yeah, I think everyone has to decide their work-life balance, and everybody's right about it. As long as you're happy, as long as you feel bliss in your soul. Some people like to work their asses off. I like to work very hard, but I also like to relax also very hard. And I used to not have that. I used to only work. I never took a vacation until like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that, because I was very dedicated to having a certain amount of success before I started to like bathe in it. And I do think it is simply about understanding almost beforehand who you want to be, how you want to be, how do you want to operate, how do you want your relationships to work, how do you want your image to reflect in the world, which is something you can to some degree program, because especially with social media, you can tell people what they are supposed to think about you very easily. My social media is personal, but also you'll know nothing about me from it, because also there are sociopaths that live out there who will kill me, and so I don't want it. I don't want to die for acting. Alex, was that okay? Was that a decent answer? I kind of got rambly.
No, that was great. Certainly helps to not get lost in the sauce. I think that was some good advice. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and like honestly, you can get lost in the sauce a little bit. It's fun. I have weeks where I'm like, I'm the shit. I am amazing. And then my wife will be like, clean the toilet. And I'm like, and I still gotta clean the toilet. Awesome. I need an assistant. What's the next question?
So Chris, you mentioned how you don't use method acting, and I'm interested to hear about, the acting method that you do use, and especially how you go about portraying, difficult emotions or experiences that you may not have personally experienced, how you draw on, how exactly to portray something like that.
It's not that I don't do method. It's just a bit intense for me. I don't judge anybody's way of getting where they get, so long as it doesn't bother my way. I think every way is a winner if the message is communicated. I just think like, who am I to send dead rats to a castmate because it puts me in the mood? Like, what an asshole. I'm being very specific about who I'm thinking about. I use a combination of everything I've ever learned, and it would be very hard to put it all together. I don't even think there is one thing. There is only getting to the solution. Like if we are mathematicians, the solution is to give the audience an experience that evolves them, changes them, inspires them, whatever you and your collaborators have decided. And I don't think there is a wrong way to get there. I think there is only getting there. I use so many techniques. I use actioning. I use Stanislavski. Obviously we all use Stanislavski, let's be real. I've used method, but not for like I'm not a big emotional recall person. I'd rather just put myself in the corner with imagination and journaling. And I'm less of the person that wants to take my traumas and re-traumatize myself, because I don't think that is long life living. And I think that's what gave me a couple gray hairs, is that kind of that style. So that's not my thing. What was the other part of the question, Will?
I think you answered it about how yeah. That was fantastic. Thank you, Chris.
Hell yeah, I'm the master of answering questions. What's the next question? Let's get it. Yes,
Go
Omar.
ahead, Omar.
I was admiring you in a film that was very difficult, difficult to watch, and at times quite painful, because it was taking me back to the history of slavery. And you know, I'm talking about 24 years a slave.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to correct me, 12 years.
No, I was gonna let you do 24 and correct you later.
Oh, okay, so let me correct myself. I've seen it twice.
Oof. That's all I've seen it. I can only handle it. I say I'm gonna watch it one more time, and I'm like,
So
I don't know.
That was really 24 4 years. It was very profound, and it was very sad in a way, and inspiring. I wonder how you managed to go through the shooting process without inflicting with your psychological state. I assume that was difficult.
Yeah, I'm
Between
not
and
sure
there,
that
also.
I'm not sure that it's possible for it not to creep in to some
Mm.
degree. Because even 12 years, I remember we would all hang out and like cry together, mostly laugh, but occasionally just be like, oh my God, that scene today. Oof. So there is a lot of I mean, we're still humans, and we're still empathetic humans. Most artists are. And so it's going to creep in. It's just knowing the difference between what's mine and what's theirs. I did a film, Red Sea Diving Resort. I'm good in it. I'm not sure how good the movie is, nor is it, I don't believe it's historically accurate now in reflection. I shouldn't say those things, but they already paid me. But that was a role where I was a menace. I was a person who did a lot of really awful things in my point of view to people. Yet, to go back to Will's question earlier, which I remember half of, even when we're playing, it's not our job to judge our characters. I mean, we have to know what we're willing to do. You know, if we want to show our, like I was butt naked for 12 years a slave, but they luckily didn't show my penis. So maybe one day somebody will pay me more. That's so stupid. But thank you, my wife laughed. But we have to know what we're willing to do, what we like. That's the point of kind of knowing yourself, because then you know, oh, I can't do this scene where I'm being beat up by 12 people, because that'll trigger me, and that's beyond acting. That's something you need to deal with your therapist, right? But that's we have to take most care of ourselves as actors. And say for 12 years a slave, Underground, Red Sea Diving Resort, I always had a decompression time. I always had a time to just, I was less productive outside of work during those projects, because those projects took up too much bandwidth to just not be thinking about. And then, you know, America's America. So like every day in the news cycle, I am reminded that I am a product of slavery. So those movies in particular, and even When They See Us, most recently, Ava DuVernay's miniseries that I'm also in, that those things that are still a heartbeat of American culture are harder to let go of, because they're not let go of. This is not fantasy. It's what's happening, you know. It is current. But they're hard, but it's part of the gig. I mean, like, you do your best to protect yourself emotionally, physically, and then you do the job, and then you create a whatever the cushion is you individually need to heal from that day's work, that hour's work, that week's work, that series of work, I think.
Thank you.
Do we have any audience questions? Go ahead, Derek.
Let's see it, Derek.
Earlier, you talked a little about anxiety and how you sometimes experience that on the phone. So, do you ever experience anxiety while you're performing? And if so, do you have any techniques to overcome that, or how do you get over that?
I don't really experience it except for the first day of work now, because it's like, oh gosh, who's gonna be the cool kid? Like, it's still so ingrained in me. I try not to, but usually it takes about 20-30 minutes of connecting with someone at work. But I know that about myself. I'm like, if I feel anxious, I need to talk to someone and turn them into a human and not a concept, which is one thing I would suggest, turning them into humans and remembering they're just humans, not concepts. But that's in auditioning, that's in acting, that's in every element of life. And stop pretending our characters can't be nervous. Like, our characters can be nervous. Why can't they? Like, I often, for auditions in particular, just in case I get nervous, I pre-program, okay, my character may be feeling anxiety because of what? And so most of my audition characters have anxiety running through them no matter what, because I know at any moment I could get nervous. Anxiety is the most, not often, but it is the thing that brings itself up mostly in auditions. And then what I tend to do is find a way to turn the collective anxiety into joy. So that's auditioning, 202, which is like, you learned your lines, you broke your script down, you know everything, you know your angles for the camera, but how are you going to make that person over there remember you? Because that's the most important thing. If they're seeing 200 people a day, why is it that you are the only person they remember? What did you do with said anxiety, with said joy, with said fear? Did you turn it into a personal moment with the people? One time I was auditioning, it was awful, for this show called 6 Degrees. And it's not on the air. I think it was on the air for 15 and a half minutes. They took it off. It was awful. And
6 degrees of separation?
No, just 6 degrees. Yeah, but it's based on the concept, obviously, of 6 degrees of separation. And you even look at the cast, look it up on IMDb. The cast is like, what? Why is this person with this? It does not make any sense whatsoever. But I didn't care. I was just getting a day job, trying to make a little bit of money because I was poor. And my audition, I always was like, okay, let me see, how do I want to, I think Gail Keller was the casting director. Also, get to know everybody in the industry, research them all now, learn their likes and their dislikes, because you can use it as ammunition in every audition room. If you know what somebody likes or what they are or who they are, and I mean that as far as producers, as the network, like if you're auditioning for CW, that's different from auditioning for ABC. I'm saying things you might already know, but I'm saying them anyway. So back to Gail Keller. The person, right, I tend to be a charmer in auditions. I tend to make people laugh. I tend to warm their hearts, and that takes them off their guard. And then we have a personal moment, and then I win. If I don't book that one, I end up booking something with that person, or they just become a fan, a long-term fan, until I ruin it. And with Gail, I heard the person before me go, and they were, oh my God, they just had the whole room laughing. I was so pissed. I was like, oh, this is a bummer. What am I gonna do? And what I decided to do, I that previous weekend, 4 days before, I almost died. I was in a lake. I can't swim, but I tried and I failed pretty miserably. And it was horrifying. And I was still really, really, really shaken. I think that's the right tense. I was shaken by it. And so that was really that was my most honest emotional truth. My plan was to cover that up and just make them laugh. It was 3 words. My lines were love it, love it, love it, love it. And it's 3 episodes, and that's all I say in 3 episodes, but it was $3,000 and I really needed money. And so once I heard everybody, and this is actually when I learned this, was on this audition. Once I heard the person before me they dominated. I was like, oh, that sucks. And one of the reasons I can listen to the people before me is because I'm prepared, because I got my stuff together. And now I'm using every other element of the audition process as a weapon against them. And you don't have to frame it that way. I just use it as an opportunity. But I also sometimes think of some specific casting directors as actively enemies. That's awful. But I went in the audition and I just told the truth. They said, how are you doing, Chris? And I said, I'm horrified, honestly. I almost died yesterday. And then I just start crying because that was the emotional tremor that I was at. Thank God I didn't deny it. And then I did the scene. And it's one of those lines, like you'll learn as you traverse the industry, some roles don't matter. You're literally getting booked because you know somebody's cousin, you look a certain way, you did it really special. That role I didn't book because I'm good. And I was just good at that time. But I made her have an emotional moment. And so she remembered me. That's the only reason I booked that role. I booked a pilot once and it was awful. I learned it. I overworked the scene, which I don't think that's possible, but somehow I did it. I overworked it. And you know what I did? I got really attached to a performance, which I think is the worst way to audition. I was very attached to this performance. This is what I'm gonna do when I get in there. That when I heard the casting director talk, it all went away. Every single word. I didn't know anything. And I am known as a hard worker. So she was very generous. And she literally at one point started feeding me the lines. And I said, Christy, you know what, man? I know you're not supposed to apologize, but I blew this, bro. I can't do it. I can't figure it out. I don't know why, but it's out of me. Let's stop wasting time and you go ahead and cast the person. Like, this is a waste of time. I ended up booking it. And only because I turned it into a human moment. I shifted that to a win-win. I made her feel good about herself for like helping me. Good for her. Yay, her. She can pat herself on the back when she goes home. And I made myself feel better by being honest, which is like, I overworked it. I know it, but I overworked it. And this ain't, it ain't live or die. It's just a role on a show. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? I believe in myself enough to know that eventually there's a plate for me, which you should know eventually. If you stay in this game long enough, you honestly don't even have to get better than you are now. You just have to show up. And eventually you're just trying to heighten your odds of success by getting better and more skill sets. But you watch TV, there's some trash actors out there who look just like you. I'm sure you look on the screen and go, God dang it, I look just like that asshole, and they suck. Like, so just know that's not a lie, but they're good at something. And they're better at something than you are, whether it be the way they audition, whether it be how they, like Keanu Reeves is not technically a great actor, but you'll know if you listen to any director of photography talk about Keanu Reeves, they talk about his understanding of light and camera. He knows where to stand, how to stand to get the optimal effect that they're trying to get through the lens. It's an amazing skill set, and it requires a lot of practice, and he's a master of it, which is why, like, it used to be the old joke was like how bad of an actor he is, but they didn't realize how much of a dream he is to work with, because you're going to get your days. You're not going to have some actor who has an emotional breakdown. You're not going to have some actor who misses their mark. He will never, ever miss a mark. And he's also incredibly kind. I don't know why I'm big up in Keanu Reeves, but did I answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, thank God, Derek. You saved me from myself. You saved me from myself. What's the next question?
Yeah, I guess to follow up on your point of leaving a mark, making sure that the auditioners remember you, how would you recommend to these young actors about finding their trademark, their specialty? How do you recommend that we find our strength? And to follow up on that one, are there good strengths and are there bad strengths, or is every strength?
Every strength is a strength. Somebody's gonna like it. Somebody's gonna like your style, your thing. Someone will love what you do. And all you need is a few people. Like, we often get stuck in trying to please the entire industry. Why? They're a bunch of assholes, a lot of them. Like, on that side, in casting and producing, some of these people are horrible, and they've never hired me because it is obvious that I would not work with them. Like, it doesn't work. The math doesn't work. The more you are your authentic self, I swear to you, that's really the answer. Is you will find how people like you. I used to have this assignment where I would send my classes out and say, all right, this is a basic little trick, not trick, but thing. Get 20 people, 3 people, 10 people, I don't care. Get ask them 5 descriptors, adjectives. You may have done this in some class. It's very basic. Adjectives that describe you. 5 strangers, 5 people that know you very well, and your 5. And you just reflect on what they say. It's not about taking it personally. If someone thinks you're an asshole, then you say, oh, what about me makes you feel like I'm an asshole? Because then you use that information and know this trait about me comes off this way. You can shift it if that's what you're ultimately wanting to do. But also you could go, for me, when I enter any room, I have a general sense because of practice and experience, but also because of just this being a part of my process of knowing how to manipulate the person across from me. And it's because I've spent so many times having them try to manipulate me and they're on their side of the table. Whether it be to be my best self, or there have actually been casting directors who definitely for a fact have tried to sabotage me because we don't like each other, because he's a dick. And it's okay to not like every casting director. There's 2 or 3 that I've unfortunately cursed out. And I just actually made amends with one of them recently, and she didn't even remember it. She was like, man, that must have been such a big life event for you. I said, it was, and you don't remember it? Oh, you made me so mad. And she actually apologized. She understood the exact moment. She understood what she did. And she told me why she did it, because she was queer and coming out, and her parents are Korean. They didn't like it. And she was still having to work. And the person she worked with was her boss at the time. She's the boss now of her own casting firm, but her boss at the time, almost said their name, I won't say them, is a rusher. It's like, get them to do the performance fast. And that is not how I work. I'm not interested. Don't cut me off. Like if I got 5 minutes, it's my 5 minutes. Don't blow my 5 minutes. I'll blow my own 5 minutes. And so she cut me off, and I didn't like it. And that's why she got yelled at or reprimanded strongly. And then we had a little back and forth, and then I had to keep going. I had to do it anyway. And I was like, why am I doing it? We know you're going to delete it the second I leave the room, which she did. But I don't know my point. I lost track. Damn it, I do that. True, did any of that, was any of that useful? Put me back on, True. Put me back on track.
Yeah. So, that second part of the question, each strength can be useful. You just have to find the people that are willing to use that trait or like that trait. It doesn't matter that you please everybody. You just have to please.
Yeah, and you'll listen. Like there's some rooms I go into where I listen and go, oh, it's not gonna work today. I can feel it. I can feel that this person's not in the mood. Let me just be awesome. Because at the end of the day, just have dope work. Walk in with confidence, do dope work with confidence, leave with confidence. That's the basic. That's auditioning 101. The next level is being able to read the room and go, I bet I can turn this 5 minutes into 20. Which is, I am weirdly a master of pissing off every actor behind me. And now I'm at a position, I'm blessed to be in a position where I already have like an hour, because you work your way up the rankings, and then they book you not in 5-minute slots, but they'll give you the day. They'll ask me my time, and especially in the digital world, it's literally like, when do you want to meet for this meeting? But before I earned that, and it's definitely not universal, Marvel will still make me send a tape in. I was very good at knowing when to utilize what part of my personality. And that's the practice of it. Like, honestly, line up a bunch of your homies, audition in front of them, and ask their critiques. I started this thing in LA when I first moved there, because I got very confused as to what my personal priorities were. And I was all over the place. And so I started this collective, which is nothing more than just, I called it The Space, because I was like, all I'm offering is a place for dope people to come and work on stuff and not talk about money or Instagram or how they look, but they can get back to being artistic. And I was a part of a show, The Newsroom, at the time, when we were all New Yorkers in LA for the first time, and being given so much more. LA is so distracting in amazing ways. It will, if you have a weakness, LA will find it, and it will offer it to you. It'll be like, oh, you like crack cocaine? Here's some crack cocaine. I've never done crack cocaine. But I started to get distracted by money in particular, because there's so much of it, especially in LA. There's just a ton of money to be made in so many ways. And that started to be, when I would talk to my team, I'd start to be like, yeah, but how much they paying? And my manager sat me down and was like, bro, when we got into this, you can do whatever you want to do. I work for you. But when we got into this, this is what you said your operating system was. And I was like, oh shit. And so I started The Space. At one point it was like dope people, like, you might not know them, but like, who was on my floor? I think Viola Davis one time was just sitting on the floor waiting for her turn to do a monologue. But what it did is it formed a community of a collective people who were here for one purpose. and the purpose was to help each other get better. And that is one way you could utilize your classes, your friendships, your family, is to audition for them and go, and that's free as hell. That's the freest thing you can do, is say, in 2 weeks, I'm gonna audition for y'all and tell me what was good and what was bad. And even if they don't know what they're talking about, it will be helpful. Moms are usually useless because they're so sweet, loving, and generous that they're not gonna tell you the truth. But I find that most male relatives, unfortunately, they have a lot of opinions. What else? That was a long answer for that one. Sorry.
Really quick, do we have any audience questions?
Any audience questions? Yes.
Yeah, so you talked earlier about sort of realizing that you kind of have to like take opportunities instead of like expecting them to be given to you, and sort of like taking control of like how your career goes. What made you sort of have this realization? Because I feel like this is definitely something probably a lot of people struggle with, where you kind of just expect that if you keep doing good work, you know, something great will happen, without realizing that maybe you have to put in some sort of intentional effort.
Man, that phrase, intentional effort, is everything. Y'all should all just remember that. Intentional effort. Just do everything with a purpose. Stop wasting energy. You know what I mean? Like, some stuff just doesn't matter, but you'll figure that out. The way that I learned that obviously was through experience. And I started to, you know what happened is I started to value myself. That's really all it was. I started to go, wait a second, I'm important and my art is important, and no one's really looking at me the way that I want to be looked at. I had one of my, I thought, well, he's my friend now, but at the time, there's a guy who forgot me 5 times. 5 times. And I worked intimately with this cat. 5 times he forgot me. And the 5th time was the last time, because that was the moment I finally was myself. I wasn't some blanketed, veiled version of who I am to make people happy. I was like, my dude, if you, this is what I said. I said, if you fucking forget me one more time, bro, not only will I fuck you up, but I will never talk to you again. I will disparage your name. This is the 5th fucking time, my man. Like, this is disrespectful. Don't be disrespectful to me. And it was like, I gave myself permission. It's as if I remembered my sophomore year advice of nobody has to like me. I wanted this cat to like me so bad. And that probably bled out into the industry. I wanted people to know me and like me and realize how dope I am, which matters. When you're first starting, you want to get your energy out there and have people understand your vibration and your art, but it doesn't mean to cut off your personality, because how can they possibly get to know you? I forgot the question I'm answering.
Yeah, that was really helpful. I was just asking about sort of how you realized that, you know, you have to like do things to claim sort of like your place. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And being specific about what you want today. Like, when we get off this phone, why don't you start getting serious about your goals? If your goal says, I want to be an actor, that's a bullshit trash bag goal. It's a waste. What does it mean? It means nothing. To be an actor, what do you want to do? Background for the rest of your life? Do you want to do ADR? Do you want to do looping? Do you want to do books on tape? What do you want to do? What is your, and then what do you want to do? Right? This is my ideal. And I don't care. You know, a lot of people are like, you don't be about the money or the fame or whatever. Be about whatever the hell you want to be about, as long as you know why. Because if you're purposeless, if you have not purposeful intention, it's not going to happen. It's just not. And most things will come into your plate, but why not get it there sooner by targeting it? Like, and if you know specifically, I want this kind of lifestyle, you won't waste energy. Like, I know most important to me at the time was not being disrespected. I just couldn't handle a career where I was being disrespected. And so I had to personally stop auditioning for commercials, because it is a disrespectful process. It's garbage. I hate it. I don't like that it's a bunch of 20-year-olds, and I was 20 at the time, who were just kind of treating me like shit, who were like not watching, or my wife had an audition where they threw Cheerios at her. And I was like, yo, honestly, like, I'm just not made of that. I'm no longer, I used to be a person who you could kick in the face and I'd be like, oh, thank you so much. Is your shoe okay? But then something happened and the well broke and I no longer can. And so I don't even put myself in the position, because that's my ego, that's my immaturity, that's my stuff. That's not their fault that I can't be disrespected. So many people allow it. It's not. And so I had to remove myself from the equation, and I'll just do commercials when they pay me significantly more now. So the math works either way. Was that the answer? Man, I'm so sorry. I do this, I ramble and then I forget what I'm saying. I kind of love that about me.
Oh, that was great. Thank you.
All right, what else? I'm not gonna forget. I'm not gonna ramble. Next question.
So Chris, one question that I have for you is, dealing with the bumps along the way, dealing with the setbacks, dealing with, what doesn't go right. Because, certainly in my own experience, I found that it can be one thing to kind of adopt, different lifestyle, healthier, more positive lifestyle habits, mental habits and whatnot, while you're in a good place in your life. And then once things start getting bumpy, sometimes it can be harder to stick to that. And what is your advice for, dealing with those bumps along the way without getting, thrown off track by them?
I would say, one, do not tie your identity up in your career success. Like, there's no reason this job should make you unhappy. And that just means you've misplaced your energy. Like, if you put your ego inside of this thing, you will get chewed up, man, because you will come across someone who cuts you off. You will not book everything you audition for. But if you really think about it, who are you to never have tragedy in your life? Who are you? Who do you think you are that you're not supposed to be uncomfortable, that you're supposed to get everything you want? And then what kind of life would that be? If everyone said, and so it's almost like just remembering that you're just a human being having human moments. You're not special. You're not a unicorn. Everybody gets yeses. Everybody gets nos. Everybody wakes up. Everybody tries their best to get the thing they want. And everybody gets passed on sometimes. But that's universally true. So why do we turn it into a negative thing when it's just Tuesday? Especially in our job, I don't book I have a very high booking rate because I have a very low audition acceptance rate, but mathematically over time, I'm still not being paid enough, considering not only the amount of work I've done, but the amount of work I've done and not booked. Are you kidding me? I haven't booked so many things. And so what? All I can do is learn from that audition. What do I think was useful inside of that audition? What was not productive? What can I do next time? Actually, what can I do in between to practice? Say I messed up my lines. Oh, I didn't know that line that much. Okay, so I need to work harder on my script. Oh, I couldn't make the casting director break out of actor auditionee mode. Okay, what can I do next time with that person in order to break the veil so that I amplify my opportunity? Every single time, it's the old business adage, isn't it? There is no failure. There's only opportunity. There's only the things that we are learning that we can use. Because everything, I once auditioned, I hate this one. I auditioned for Ellen Lewis, who casts most of Martin Scorsese's stuff. She casts only baller stuff, man. She's a G. She casts like the best stuff. She's a proper casting director, like the kind who really will be like, is it going to take you 30 minutes to let's build this scene to get, like, she's an artist, real deal. I walked into this audition for, what was it, Boardwalk Empire. And I read everything thoroughly, I thought, but I misread what he was wearing to a degree that you could not possibly believe. Every dude I walked in, there's all these beautiful brothers with like slick hair, with zoot suits on. And I was like, oh, no. Oh, what have I done? I was like, hair not done, and in a tank top, like a tight white tank top, which was so wrong. And I compounded that wrong by instead of then just being like, okay, well, I'm wearing the wrong thing, who gives a shit? That's the common sense reaction. And that, if you don't know that, just do that. Just go, oh, that doesn't matter. I better act my ass off. What I did was, the next 30 minutes, I created a lie about being attacked by pigeons. I shit you not. I cannot believe this was so stupid. And I stood in front of one of the best casting directors and told this lie that she didn't ask for. She didn't ask why I was wearing what I was wearing. She didn't give a shit. But I was like, oh my God, the craziest thing happened, which means do tell. And I told the stupidest story. And like the way she looked at me, it was like suddenly I went, oh, I didn't have to do that, did I? And that ruined everything. So because I lacked the opportunity mindset, I didn't understand, like, no matter what you do, it's a win. Literally, no matter what you do in the room, you can capitalize on it. You mess up your line, you have the right to ask for another thing. You wear the wrong thing, you go, oh my God, I totally I mean, this is me. This is how Chris Chalk. I have the ability to go, oh my gosh, I made a mistake. That is so silly. Can you believe that? Like that's my ability. That's the thing I've practiced, is being able to diffuse damn near any situation. Part of it's growing up a Black man in the South. Part of it is being in this industry, and then part of it is making movies. I just have navigated so many people that I have experience of diffusing the most dangerous situations and the most laughable situations. And casting is not even close to, not even a percentage of the most dangerous situations I've been in. And if we remember that, it's not that big a deal. This job is our art, it's our love, but if you're willing to do it for free, don't forget you said that. You know what I mean? If it's your passion, it's because the thing you lack isn't your skill set in acting, it's the understanding of business. Because once you start to understand business more, you will take all of this significantly less personally. It's not that it won't hurt your feelings. It's not that, like, I've auditioned for stuff that I've really, really wanted and messed up. I've passed on things. Oh my God, I've passed on things that changed people's lives. Oh, in ways that are like, it's silly. My wife once, she looked over at me. It was this movie, it's a big movie. And I passed on it because I was in my ego and I was confused. And she looked over at me while we're in the Alamo Theater in Brooklyn, laughing and crying. And she said, man, you really fucked up. And I said, for the first time in my career, I really fucked up. I passed on one of the biggest hits that there ever was. And that's okay. I'm still winning. I'm still doing great. That person still wants to work with me because I completely switched why I passed. I told them a whole different thing, which is also my right. And now I'm rambling. So what else? What's the next question? Before I just start talking about myself too much.
Are there any audience questions?
Erin is definitely not asking any questions because her mouth is covered. So it's not happening. Not happening.
Well,
Katie is fed the fuck up. She's sick of this. She wants to go watch her stories.
I actually do have a question for you.
Let's go,
ahead.
Katie.
My question is, can you talk about a time that you've struggled to connect to a character that you're playing, and sort of how you overcome that?
If you overcome it, this one in particular, at the time I did not. I haven't struggled much in my adult life just because I know myself a lot better. And if I don't think I can do it, I don't even audition, because what's the point? I know my skill set. I mean, I'm getting better at a lot of stuff, but some stuff I'm just like, that's it. That's as good as I'm gonna get at that thing. There was a character on Nurse Jackie. This was just an audition. And I used this set of sides. If any of you ever hire me, I'll give you these sides, because for me, it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. It was someone who, this actually goes back to an earlier question. It was someone whose wife served in the military. So you have that absence. She was just at home on leave, which is, we have kids, and then she died on the FDR. And so it was a whole slew. I've understood loss, but not the loss of a partner. I'd only had girlfriends at the time. I didn't understand having kids, even though I raised my nephew. He's not mine. He is not of me. And that's a whole different thing. Uncling is very different from daddying. And I have I'm so honorific of the military. I'm just so grateful and I love them. I don't love how they're used, but the people who serve, I just bow down to, because that's a hard career path. So that actually even got in the way of my frustration with the military in that scene. So I had so many issues going on. And then character, come on. I don't even think I built a character because I had so much on my plate that I was like, okay, so what is Chris gonna do? And what I did at that moment was fail miserably. I fake cried. I did all this awful, awful shit. It was awful. I should have just passed if I couldn't do it, is what I should have done. But now what I do, someone asked like the earlier, or maybe this is how I interpret it, but something every human being has, and this is my entryway into every single character, is something that they love more than anything else. And they'll do anything for that thing. And once I find what a person loves, I can find the person. say Colonel, the Colonel in Red Sea Diving Resort, though he set people on fire and shot people in their faces, he loved his country. And when we take away judgment, you have to go, okay, so even though he's doing these things that from an American sentiment I think are awful, what do I know? I've never survived a genocide. There are a lot of things say that Sudanese character had survived and had perpetrated on him. And then that's easy. Once I find out he loves his country more than anything and he'll do anything to protect him, this is how he grew up. So I have to remove my American sentiments of thinking something is good or bad. We are very blessed. As shitty as our country can be, man, we're not in Syria. You know what I mean? There are a lot of people suffering across this world in ways that, like, we are so blessed to be protected from just by luck of birth. Literally, we just got lucky to be born. We got lucky to be one of the sperm that made the egg go pop. You know what I mean? And we got lucky to be here in some ways, but unlucky in that we're a judgmental society that thinks we're the top of everything. And we forget that, like, empathy is the main part of this job, which is going, this is this person. Let me just invest all this energy in this person that I'm going to create and turn them into the most accessible part of me. And so I guess my answer is know yourself the most. That's the most important thing. And be willing to fully explore a character's emotional range. Also, something you could do yourself without having to pay people is expand your own personal emotional range in your performance range. Stop waiting for the audition to get better. A lot of people are like, oh, when that next audition comes, I'm gonna really work on my crime. Well, that's a dumbass time to work on it. Why didn't you work on it on the 3 months before the audition came? And so when I say everybody's like Meryl Streep, she's had the ability to practice, which is each time she practices, she's just pushing her range a little bit more. She's just expanding her range and her comfort. The more times you've tied your shoe, the better you've gotten with tying your shoe. The same mindset, the same actual human evolution works in acting. The more times I do this thing, the easier it is. The more times I flirt, the easier flirting becomes. The more times I get angry, the easier that becomes. And so that is a thing. Don't take it out, don't do it to people. But really, you can every day be expanding your own personal boundaries and range incrementally, especially with the world on pause. You have nothing to lose. Everyone else is doing it. I forgot the question I was answering.
No, that was great.
Was it?
Yes.
I begged Katie to talk and I almost blew it. Thank goodness. What else?
Are there any more audience questions? Okay, I guess shifting gears a little bit. What, Chris, what do you look specifically, and then what do you recommend for the other actors in the room when looking for an agent or a manager or specific casting directors or directors that you want to work with?
I look for, as far as my team, which would be the lawyer, the publicist, the manager, the agent, and the accountant. Some people have business managers. I don't make enough money for a business manager. What is he gonna manage? I look for people who can do things that I can't do and who have access to things that I don't have access to. What's the point of putting an egg on an egg? You know what I mean? Then it's just 2 eggs. But if I get an egg and then some bread, if somebody else brings bread, I mean, that's a silly analogy, but it's a matter of, I want my opportunities amplified. I'm not a shark. I can be mean, but not really. Like, I keep it, it's real tight. My work life, that's not what I do. I keep it all love, all peace, all ease. My manager is a dick. He will shred a human being on my behalf. And so that's his purpose. And he has access to plan B. That sounded funny, the drug. And I take it all the time. No, he has access to plan B, which is a production company that does the kind of things I quite love. And so those are the reasons he was on the team initially. Now he's a friend and he makes mistakes, but right now he has made less mistakes than, he's done more good than bad. But I'm always willing to fire anybody, which I love about me. I think as far as casting directors, I don't care. I just look to see that all I'm trying to do if I'm trying to work with them is find a way to get it to find the thing about them that I can utilize for my greatest good. They're just middle people. I personally think it's a wasted job. And I think it's gonna eventually evaporate because now there's a billion casting directors, which means there's just people in between us and the job. And a lot of productions, often the producers will cast, the directors will cast, they'll have a sort of casting director, but they're more of an organization person. And who knows, that's all over the place. So I don't care so much about casting, though the good ones like Francine Maislers of the world, man, I like her work. So all I had to do was say, I like your work. And we talked about her work. She's just insanely good at what she does. You should learn all the casting directors, obviously. Well, the important ones, the list changes all the time. And then as far as projects that I work on personally, not that we make as filmmaking, we mostly make movies in-house. We only work on our own things. We just produced Farewell, which is I wrote, directed, and my wife was the star of. We financed it, and it just won for best first feature at Bentonville Film Festival. Now we're trying to sell it, but I'm in class to be better at that at UCLA. That's another thing. Always supplement your education. If you don't know shit and you don't want to give money away, learn it. Learn it yourself. And we couldn't afford to give the money away. Okay, so for projects, it all depends. It will be individual. It will be based on your goals, which you're going to start working on when we're done talking. You're going to just really dominate your goals and get specific. And there is no way to be too specific. You're going to be flexible. It's going to evolve. You're going to learn more information. Right now, you're like, I want to be an action adventure star. And then you might learn what that life means and go, that sounds awful. I don't want to. I did a movie with Chris Evans and I was like, I'm not sure. I mean, I like the money. Like he rich. But I was like, golly, I don't know that I love his lifestyle. And that's what experience will help you edit your list as you continue. You'll spend time in LA and be like, I love this weather, but I hate missing winter, whatever. So as far as work, I tend to pick based on your goals. But for me, it's the character, is the character dope? Is it working with dope people? And what the money is. I think those are three. I think there's one more that I forgot about, so it must not be that important. But those are three of the things I look at and weigh. Like if it's a shit ton of money, I almost don't care. It's like, because I have other things that I can do. But usually it's about how dope the character is. Is it a full fleshed out character? Do I feel like I can bring life to it in a way that is important and special? Is it going to be with important and special people who do amazing work or okay work? One job I just recently took, I'm supposed to film in Germany in January, but the date keeps moving. But it's with a person who I know can't act, but I really feel like I'm the only person that can make her good in this movie. And that's what I told the director in our meeting. I went, dude, here's the truth. Homegirl is not that great. She's not a great actress. She works really hard, but she's not that great. And she needs somebody around her that she knows and that she's comfortable with. And that's me. I lived with her for 5 months. I understand her incredibly well. And I understand how to get the best out of her. And then we talked about nothing, because eventually he was like, oh, I want this dude because this dude understands my personal dilemma. So sometimes it's just an opportunity to test other elements of my skill set. For this movie, the character is good and it will be great in my experience. I also wanted to leave the States for a little bit, so it serves me getting out of the country when it's getting ready to be pretty volatile up in here. And he's a first time, I think this is his first feature that he both wrote and directed, and we talked about that because I just did that. And so that's why I chose that project. It's usually case by case, but in general, it's money, character, and the people I'm working with. And story, sorry, that's the other thing. If the story is not shitty. What else?
So one question that we had asked quite a few times ahead of time by students was, what are your suggestions? How do you go about memorizing lines and then right before your performance, getting into character for your performance?
Well, don't wait till right before your performance to get into character. Like, I think that's a technique to obviously figure out beforehand. When I do theater, I'm a person that gets to the theater very early because I like to like touch things and see things and have my energy. I like to be comfortable. That's me. Some people can come 5 minutes before call and be better than anything. So for me, I like to get to places early and get focused and review the work from the night before and set clearer intentions before I go on stage or go on set. I always review. I sometimes practice. I had one scene with somebody, I can't remember recently, well, not pre-COVID. And we were both like, man, this isn't that good. And I can't figure out why. So I think it was Matthew. And we just kept going through it. And we had the right to shave and cut stuff on this show. So we just kind of kept trimming it and cutting it. Then the director came and we trimmed it and we cut it. So sometimes beforehand, it's about collaborating. But I don't know that, especially when you start working professionally, I don't think nerves are going to be your problem. Maybe the first 2 times, you know what I mean? Because it'll be new for you and you got to understand no one's going to kill you. But mostly you're going to just be wanting to make it the best you can. That's all you can do. In all the moments that you're still, you should be working on being as dope as you can, either as a person or an artist. But that's like universally, instead of like, I gave up my video game systems and I love video games, like I miss them. But I was also like, we're trying to write scripts. So do I want to spend 8 hours writing a script? Or I want to just spend 8 hours kissing my wife? Or do I want to spend 8 hours playing a video game? 2 of those options are dope. One of them sounds stupid in comparison to what I say my goals are. And that's the thing, you'll look at your big goal list and then your life gets easier. Just live according to your goal list. If you want to be this badass actor, but you know you're not that great at emotional availability, you've got 8 hours. Treat it like a job. Treat this like the job that it is and work on that thing. Because again, you don't have to be good. You just have to practice. You'll get better. You'll get better and better and better. But if you're waiting on a miracle, if you're not practicing, if you think you got it figured out, you're so wrong. Because when you've got a techno crane camera in your face swirling around your head, if you don't have your shit together, that camera is like $1 million for them and they're renting it. So the time you take is added to the tension overall. You have to have your shit together. And I think you do that by being prepared, by practicing, and preparation is everything. Preparation is everything. Preparation is everything. I can't say it enough. Being prepared, having a point of view, knowing what you want to do, but keeping it flexible, and constantly being aware of if that changes, if any piece of information and scripts change and make you go. One time on a Newsroom, Aaron Sorkin was the creator, and he changed the line from another character. And at the time, Alex Graves, who's a great television director, he was directing, and he's very not actor friendly. He just directs. He's not interested in humans or actors. And I was like, I don't know what my line means anymore. And I had to and it's so stupid. I only had one line that day, but I hunted him down for hours because he was so busy that day. And I was like, my dude, like, honestly, when you get to my scene, I'm telling you, I don't know what it means now that you changed this, this, and this. So sometimes I just reflect to see if and he fixed it and I was right, but I felt very insecure. So all I did was just get rid of my insecurity by asking whatever question I needed to get rid of the insecurity. Like whatever the insecurity is, whatever the fear and anxiety is, address it. It's usually just you feeling unprepared, but if you feel unprepared, that's your fault for not preparing, really. What else?
Are there any audience questions at the moment?
Let me see. Let me think about things you don't know. What don't you know? I'm sure there's so much.
One of the submitted questions was, this pandemic has obviously changed things quite drastically. So regarding this industry, what problems do you see surfacing due to the pandemic for young aspiring actors, and how do you recommend that they overcome or deal with such problems?
I don't know that there are problems. That's not really a word I use much. I think that people need to learn to self-tape a lot. People, especially the generation that's been very big into cell phone communication, need to learn to talk to people again, because everything's going digital and you have to talk to these people. A lot of stuff is self-tape, but once you get past the self-tape phase, and if you can't communicate with ease, and just be at ease with yourself, which comes with age, but also practice. It comes with like realizing how much of your life is a performance for your peers and removing all of that shit so that you can have the most authentic version of you. Getting most comfortable with that is very important. Self-taping again, self-taping is going to become everything. Mostly the industry is digital right now. And once that happened, my wife and I were like, then why are we living in LA? Why are we burning through all this money if we don't have to live here? If everything is going to be, if all my opportunities are coming through Zoom meetings, why we don't need to be here? We can go somewhere else and live the healthy life we want to live. And so we did, or so we're doing it now. So I would say get comfortable with discomfort, get comfortable with not knowing, because we don't know anything. We know as much as we know, which is nothing really. And get good at self-taping, because I think a lot of these businesses, with the amount of money they're losing in this time, they're going to stay digital and let go of some of these office spaces that they're renting. I think a lot of in-person auditioning is going to fade away before it comes back, I think. And then the rest is like, man, if you're in theater, I'm so sorry. Who knows? Who knows, man? Like, that's crazy. Even me personally, I can't fathom going inside of a theater ever again. I can't even think about going into a 2,000 seat theater and laughing with a group of people. Like, oh my gosh, I just think about the particles. That's all I think about. And so if you're in theater, I mean, I think there are ways that some people are so good with the current mediums of like YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram. They're so very good at turning that into their stage. If you have that skill set, I would tastefully find a way to make money off of it. Why not? Why not? I mean, I've definitely seen and mostly the stuff is bad, but I've definitely seen casts made of mostly Instagram stars, and it's awful shit. And I would never want to be a part of it or like it. But if that's your lane, that's your lane. You know what I mean? Like, it depends on your goals. I mean, I try not to shit on anybody's goals, because I don't care. What do I care what somebody wants with their life? If it's not to hurt somebody that I'm in, I support it. But I do think amplifying your skill set would be very useful. Learning about ways to put on smaller things. My friend Omar Findham is a incredibly talented spoken word hip hop artist, and he realized because he's Syrian, he was never going to really make it in the hip hop game. And so he turned his whole thing into a relationship with education. So he's been able to make a living off of schools and going in and having his whole hip hop persona of Findham, and he tours worldwide, and he teaches he relates Syrian conflict worldwide. And then schools stopped because of the pandemic. And so now what he's turned to doing is creating raps on Instagram, where he couples them with animation, and that's been a very successful endeavor for him. So I think adaptability is a pretty useful skill set to have, no matter what job you do, but in particular right now, finding ways to take your skill sets and amplify your brand. And your brand is whoever your most authentic or your most sellable version of yourself is. What else?
So, Chris, I've got to head down to the fire department in a few minutes. Put together some glow sticks so trick or treaters, we don't want them to get hit by cars tonight. Glow sticks, good visibility. So we're handing those out. Before I go, and True's going to take over. But before I go, I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
So we've talked about goals a lot tonight. And, one thing that I think is something that certainly I struggle with, and a lot of folks around my age struggle with, is having those really, really concrete goals. For example, I know that, I don't really want an office job. I want to be out there and helping people, but I don't know specifically like what job, what title I want to have. Mm-hmm. So how do I go about using that sort of abstract goal and finding that specific goal that I can then use to create a plan, as you've talked about, to reach that goal and focus on that?
I think you know more than you realize you know. Like you just said, I want to help people. I don't want an office job. That's being specific. keep listing. Literally, just keep making lists of the, like, because if you don't know the exact job title, who gives a shit? Like, that doesn't matter. Then you just follow the path where, like, you keep your freedom and you keep the ability to help people, and it'll get you to your ultimate thing, ultimate destination. I think, you know, the goal setting is, it doesn't matter where you're headed. You just have to be headed somewhere. Otherwise, you're going to get swept up. You're literally, you won't matter. You'll become, and the industry will treat you as such. All industries will just plug you in to be a chorus member on Broadway, which is, I like to call them light switch clients, people who pay your light bills but don't buy you yachts and Ferraris. And industries thrive off, I mean, agencies thrive off of, and not even just in our industry, people thrive off of people who pay their bills. You have to decide if you want to do more than that. And I think you're already getting specific. You just have to keep listing, and probably the job title might not even exist yet. You know what I mean? So it's the matter of, like, I want to live in warm climates. I want to make sure I help people. I want to be respected. I want to have this number of employees. I want to utilize these skill sets. That's the beginning of being specific. And the more you get information, the more you'll go, oh shit, I think that means I want to be a series regular on an HBO television show, because they respect their actors. They are in service of a better community. They're not just, that's one of the reasons why CBS is not for me, because what they serve in America is numbing. Like, a lot of it is just like, oh, we're just going to prepackage a joyful moment. And that's very valuable, but it's not, it doesn't fill me up in any way yet. When I'm older and don't want to work nearly as hard, hell yeah, I'll park up on a CBS show and get filthy rich. Are you crazy? Like, CSI, here I am. She's over there, sir. I can do it. I can slay it. But for now, my goals are simply to, like, not simply, but part of them are making some sort of change of social narrative in regards to underserved communities, which is essentially just not straight white Christian men. I'm looking to serve everybody but them. They got it figured out. They won. Good job, everybody. Y'all killed it. Y'all don't need me. Y'all got the whole industry. But that is my general but specific goal. And it used to be, my goal literally used to be, and the reason I tell you not to say, like, to be an actor, because that just means you don't know what you're talking about. You need more information. Because being an actor literally could be like every 3 weeks I work as background. But is that how like you're saying, is that how much you want to work? How often do you want to work? What kind of work do you want to do? What kind of roles, what kind of people, what casting directors, what networks? Like, this is how we get specific. If I'm going to act or be an artist, or you be a director, a producer, whatever, who do I want to work with? If I don't know the exact job title, it doesn't matter. It just is a matter of, this is the kind of world I want to live in and I want to create for myself. And the more you have that, the more of a ground, like a ground plan you have as you navigate the world. Because then when you're faced with things, someone says, hey, my man, you want to smoke meth with me? You can go, man, let me look at my goals before I answer this question. Nowhere on my goal list does it say become a meth addict. So no, I'm good. But, like, even bring that down to some other scale, like, honey, I think we should just move to Detroit. Okay, let me look at my goal list. There's nothing about living in a city that has no acting or no, but there's a lot of service I can do in that city, but there's not a lot of performing I can do. So that doesn't work for me. And that the more specific we are about the world we are creating for ourselves, the cleaner life gets, because it makes your decision making easy. And then it's just about you butting up against your own shit, your own fear of your friends, your own fear of rejection, which is the good stuff. That's when it gets good. When you start realizing most of your life has been people pleasing. When you start living for yourself, and the greater good beyond just making your friends laugh or making them comfortable. I had a conversation with my dear friend Sasha, and I told him why I stopped watching football. I quite love football, but I don't like the industry of football. And I couldn't find anybody who I could watch football with, enjoy the sport, but be honest about how it affected me and what I think about it. All the dudes were like, oh, you complicate. And I was like, no, you're living in denial and I can't fuck with y'all. And so, like, it's stuff like that. I know that if I enjoy, say, an organized sport, I have to honor the system from which it came. And in regards to football, it's such a chattel, it's the richest slavery system that exists. They're literally called owners. Like, you gotta be, and they're all white. That is crazy. And it's just an industry that watches, they're playing football in colleges during a pandemic. That's how little they care about people, but they care about the industry of the NCAA and the NFL. And for me, if I'm hanging out with people who can't be honest while they're watching it, then it doesn't work for me. That's just part of my goals. That's part of my ethos. And you'll do that. You'll just keep adding things to your list of what you want, what you don't want, what feels good, what feels uncomfortable. Discomfort you can deal with, discomfort you're like, no, that's actual violation of space. And then you'll reflect on how much of my persona is in service of everybody but myself, which is probably, I would honestly take as the first lesson, to stop doing so much for everybody else. That doesn't mean be a dick. It literally just means, how many people are you surrounded by daily that you know you don't like? And you'll have that battle for your whole life. I invited at least 4 people to my wedding I don't like. And it was for some other people that I do like, but not for me. And every time those pictures come up, I go, oh, I regret at this age making the same mistake I was making when I was in middle school, which is doing so much more for other people than for myself. And so I say, find your authentic wants, likes, honor them, and your goals will line up in the same way. As you honor yourself, your goals will become clear, because you will know clearly, this is what I want to do, not this is what the group's doing. This is what they told me to do. I had a friend who was afraid to admit she wanted to be famous. She just was so scared to say it out loud. And I was like, why? Because they'll judge me. And I was like, but will you know them in 5 years? Do they matter? Like literally, and aren't they assholes? Aren't you? Why are you trying to win the favor of people who are awful? Win your own favor. That was a ramble. I apologize. I know, I just wanted Will to leave happy.
Chris, that was fantastic. This has been my favorite green room session so far. This has been awesome. True will take it from here, and thanks again.
All right, True, lead us.
Have a good time, Will. Yeah, if no one else has any questions at the moment. So as a person of color, what were some of your expectations entering the industry, and how did those expectations, how were they fulfilled or how were they not, as you experienced throughout your career? And what pieces of advice would you give to any other actors of color entering the industry?
The advice I would give to actors of color entering into the industry is to honor your most authentic self, right? I don't know that I went through, I have friends who did this. I'm not sure that I did this, but I can't say as a fact I didn't. But my training was definitely whitewashing. My training was purely trying to take away anything that was specifically me. And that is one way when I go back to my school now and coach and do workshops. Like, why was I learning an Irish accent? Why, if the whole class is learning that, why isn't everybody learning a Nigerian accent then? You know what I mean? Like, it's a fucking racist training program is what it is. They don't even realize it. They weren't doing it on purpose, and they've revamped now. But what I would say to any person of color joining the industry is surround yourself with people who understand your existence. Meaning like someone who's not like, yeah, but you're not really Black. Yeah, but you're not really Korean. Yeah, but you're not really Jewish. Fuck those people. They're trash bags. Set them on fire. I don't care about them. Those are people who are not allowing you your full experience. I think the more people of color I've surrounded myself with, the better my art has gotten, the better my community has gotten, the clearer my purpose is. With our film Farewell, and with every film that our production company does, we hire primarily underserved communities, which again is essentially just not straight white Christian men. And not because we dislike them, but just because they dominate the industry. It's their fucking microphone, and we're just trying to spread the microphone out to other communities. So I would suggest that, but I would also understand, I would, 4 agreements. Take nothing personally. Like, I've auditioned for awful people who were just the middle person to get to the good people. So I just don't care about what some of these people think. So it's like, if I don't take anything personally, which means the congratulations or the disgust, I do my best not to, just to say thank you for that observation. That's kind of how and actually I had somebody say, you telling me it doesn't feel good when somebody says you're amazing. And I said, Yeah, if I value that person's opinion, but if that person thinks Hitler is amazing and they think I'm amazing, then that's bad. I don't know them, so why do I give a shit if they think I'm good or bad? But if it's somebody or something I respect, of course it feels good. But in general, I do my best to take none of it personally because I don't want my existence anymore. And I'll say anymore because it used to be. I don't want to be swayed any longer by other people's racism, fears, lack of education. I don't want that to be a part of the formula that makes me up, which means primarily I just got to be around people who don't treat me like their one black friend or an N-word or a thug. I need to be around people whose brains are opened way, way larger than that. So that's what I would say is surround yourself with people who aren't fucking stupid. Don't take the racism of the industry personal, but be aware of it, call them out on it, and always and never deny. You are not, don't let yourself be gaslit. You know, you've been living this life a long time. You know if something is racist or sexist or homophobic, you don't have to pretend you don't know. And I did that a lot where I was like, is that a racist thing that person just did? And then 5 weeks later go, God dang it, I knew it. Oh, I should call them out. It's too late. Like you don't, and again, you don't have to call people out. That's just my thing. I'm super into it. But I'm also, in the industry now. You'll have to weigh. I don't think you should ever sacrifice things you believe in to do this job. You never have to do that. You never have to give anything of yourself that you don't want to give to dominate at this job. You just don't. I mean, that's the whole like casting couch of it all, but apply that to racism. You believe there are people that believe that they have to endure a certain amount of bullshit, and the bullshit you endure should not be bullshit about your core belief system ever, 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 ever. It's not worth it. It's just a job. Could you imagine if you're in a show with somebody you knew they were racist or an asshole and you're like, oh, it won't be that bad. No, it will. It's going to be awful. It's going to be as awful as you knew on the day one. Trust your gut. Always trust your gut, especially people of color, because you've navigated the American system and you've had enough experiences to know when you feel, how you feel, why you feel. Don't deny it for someone else's sake. And I think that's all my advice, I think, for people of color. Bubba, do I have something else I should say to people of color? Sorry, I'm asking my wife because I forget things. Form a community, create, yeah, she's big on this. My wife is very, very good at this and big on creating your own work because there are still, there's more and more pieces of pie for everybody now, but there's still not a fair amount of pie. You know what I mean? Most of the it's so funny. Someone asked me, they said, but as a white man, what's the point of being an actor now? Dude, white men are still getting 70% of the parts. Like, it's not going anywhere. We're in America, like white dudes run the industry, yet there is more room for everyone else. So I think I lost track of what I was going to say. Just know that there is tons of space now. There's tons of opportunity, but also the more you create, like my wife said, the more control you're going to have, but also the more skills you're going to learn. Because in directing my own movie, I also quickly became a better actor than like instantly. I understood any frustration at actors because I went, oh yeah, you're making my day slow, or you don't know how to hit your light, or you're not doing a similar or same thing inside of a shot. For example, there's a kid who used to be a producing partner of mine, and now I don't care about him because when I was cutting my film, I learned that he is an actor who does everything different every time, which makes it impossible to cut. Don't do that. Learn where you can play inside of your text if you're doing film or television, which is usually not the beginning or the end. Somewhere in the middle, you can probably play around if you have a chunk of text, but the production needs somewhere to cut from you to the other person to the other person. And if every time you're moving different or not saying it different so much, but if you're moving or putting your body in different positions, which I was foolish to let him, to be fair, that's inexperienced directing, but he was foolish to do it because he pretty much got cut out of the film because it just pissed me off. And at the end of the day, I have cutting power. I got off track. Next question.
Go ahead, Derek.
Derek.
So you talk a lot about being yourself when
do talk a lot.
auditioning. So how do you display that now that there's a lot of self-taping and a lot of virtual stuff? How do you convey that
That is
over the
Derek.
internet?
Derek, that is a good ass question, my dude. That's a good question. I tend to do it, man, that's such a hard one too. I used to hate slating, like my name is Chris Chalk, da 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 da. But now I like it because that's almost the only space there is to show who you really are. So sometimes now, not often, but sometimes I'll slate anyway. If it's somebody I don't know or don't think they know my work well enough, or if there's a personality trait I'd like to offer that I couldn't squeeze into the audition, somebody remind me to talk about that. If there's a personality trait I couldn't squeeze into the audition that I know I'm excellent at, or that I know makes me incredibly easy to work with, I will do a slate that shows that. And that's just, I don't know how you do that. You just get practice in knowing how people respond. I know how people tend to respond to me in general, very, very generally, but effectively enough that so far I'm doing okay with it. But I think in that slating, it's almost the only time, unfortunately, nowadays that we have to be like, this is who I am when I'm not doing this acting thing. And so I try to add it there. And then, of course, when you start having a conversation with the director, you just fucking jump in. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm also, in addition to being an actor, I'm an incredible person, So I actually remembered. So in your audition, also remember, it's an audition, right? It's not always, you have to honor the text. You have to honor the text and the emotional arc of the text. But other than that, you can play with it. Why not squeeze in as much of what you're good at as possible inside of this mixtape? An audition is just a sizzle reel of how dope you can put this character together. So instead of just playing like your cop, I'm gonna just focus on the through line of Mr. Cop number one wants to pursue the subject. But then why not add in what makes him happy, what makes him laugh? Is there something inside the scene? Like, what other ingredients can you take from your skill set, which is massive, and add into every audition to show how diverse you, and don't fuck up the scene. Don't like, not to speak in the negative, but like, don't do a thing where like, I'm gonna make it funny, but it's a drama. No, you can find a comic moment where your character opens up emotionally in that fashion inside of that arc. Like, honor what is written. If you can find the skill set to honor what is written, but also show as much depth and layers and nuance as possible, you'll win every time. Because most auditions, I was a reader for 8 years. I have looked at so many tapes. You have no idea. It's countless. I've seen some of the biggest names be awful. I've seen nobodies be great. And I've seen legends be legends. And typically what a person does is they put in as much as they can inside of an experience. They're trying to, instead of book a job, which is most actors' MO, I want to book this. Fuck booking. I want to move my audience in what way, and what parts of my skill set can I utilize to move my audience? That's the gig. That's the fun part of this whole thing, I think. Was that useful, Derek?
Very. Thank you.
Hey, that's right. What else? Oh, and another thing, Derek, I mean, like now I'm sitting on the floor, I'm sprawled out, I'm hella uncomfortable, but I'll do this in an audition too. Like, this is me. This is the version of me today, at least, that I feel like presenting, you know what I mean? And so I honestly am always, I just do what I want to do. And I give you permission, if you haven't given it to yourself, just do what you feel like doing. Typically, if you do what you feel like doing, you understand why you're doing it. So if someone goes, why are you doing that? You can go, oh, you got me. I had to move because my knees aren't 22 and I keep losing circulation in my feet. And then that's a fun conversation. Everything's an opportunity. But if I were to see that as like, what are you doing? Oh, nothing. I should behave a certain way. Fuck that. No such thing. Like the world is made up of, all of us are oddballs who are trying so hard to be normal when normal doesn't exist. Fuck that. Be yourself, have so much fun, and like cry if you want to cry. I've cried in auditions. Oh my God, I cried in this one audition, but this was deep. This was Jim of the Ocean was doing a region, this guy Timothy Douglas was doing a regional tour of Jim of the Ocean. And I previously said I'll never do regional theater because people don't come review regional theater. So fuck regional theater. It's got nothing to do with my career. But my dad had almost just died and we didn't have the greatest relationship. And I was going through the worst breakup. The girl was like stealing my money. And so I was like, I need to get out of the city. So luckily this thing came up, but I was under so much stress. My dad had just told me he loved me for the first time on his deathbed with his chest open and wires going in and out of his lungs. Shit was so intense. I drove 11 hours back to New York and went right to this audition. And Tim is a whole other level of incredible director, but it's theater stuff. It's very theatery. He had me stay there for 8 hours. He kept calling me in and going, do it. And he was like, okay, leave, go work on it, do it again. He knew he wanted me, but I was so closed off emotionally because I was going through so much stress that then he said, all right, Chris, just tell me about what's going on with your life. And I did, and I accidentally, I would just never do this on purpose. I wept, I was like, oh, this is so fucking, and I'm very professional. It doesn't seem like it, but I'm very professional. And that I felt personally was so unprofessional. I ended up booking the job and everything I needed at the time, which I was chanting about, not chanting, I didn't chant at the time. I wasn't Buddhist at the time, but I'd been like focused on and manifesting and praying on at the time. I was trying to just get freedom from the situation I was locked in and I felt so trapped. And then I ended up crying at an audition, booking the job, and I left the city, New York, for 4 months, which gave me infinite amount of confidence in my manifestation ability, but also in trusting that the jobs are going to come when you need them. Especially if we're clear about what we need. And I was very clear. I needed to get out of the city. I needed more money and I needed a job that could hold me emotionally. And that 8-hour shitty audition where I wept and then a room full of strangers, that they didn't coddle me by any means, but they let me know I was safe. Boom. All I did was set goals. I was clear about what I was, and then I did my job. I swear to you, setting goals is everything. Oh shit, we got 9 minutes, y'all. What will we talk about?
Are there any other audience questions? Let's see. Well, so it seems to be a very big central theme here is being one's most authentic self and expressing that. So how would you say one should, or how one could demonstrate their most authentic self through the mediums of directing and screenwriting and being a producer? How does one do that?
Oh man, I mean, if you just look at anybody who is considered a legend, and I can't tell you how to be your most authentic self. I can just tell you to be your most authentic self, and I can tell you to not do what you think someone wants you to do what you want to do. Like, because if you look at who are the legends, right? You got Jordan Peele does what he wants to do. He has a very clear vision that's his. Aaron Sorkin definitely does literally whatever he wants to do. He writes, every character is the same character, but it works. For some reason on his shows, it completely works. We don't go see his work to see characters. We go to see how clever Aaron Sorkin is. Shonda Rhimes, though it's network TV, she has a thing that she does, which is kind of that like pseudo-serious network TV thing, and she honors it. And then you've got the Steven Spielbergs and the Martin, those people, all they're doing is creating the art that they want to see. And if you create the thing that you want to see, then and be that art and like be the person you want to be, it's easy. Once we stop people pleasing, like we have to honor our audiences and go like, oh, the audience tends to enjoy this, but we don't coddle them. We don't talk down to them. We don't serve them in that way. We serve them by doing an honest reflection of life. And that means one must honestly create from themselves. And when we're people pleasing, we're not creating. We're recreating. We're recreating behavior that makes them comfortable instead of creating a whole new situation that might make them uncomfortable, but you'll both grow from it. Be fearless in your conversations, in your art, in your development of self. Even when you're by yourself, ask yourself awful questions that you would never say out loud, just to know what you would do. Like explore every area of it. My wife and I, we play these stupid games one time, and I stopped playing as much. This is a fun story. We were just getting together. We had just driven across the country, which is a very funny way to start a relationship. And I played too much. And I said, babe, what if, oh my God, I just thought, what if I got you gave you an STD because I cheated on you with like one of your best friends. And she was like, I don't want to play, Chris. I don't want to play this game. This is stupid. I don't, because we practice. This is how we practice acting. This is how we practice writing. We just do it. And then this asshole, she literally, with no prep, there was no action. There was no like, let's go. She literally goes, why would you do that to me? And starts weeping, like dead, dropped in. And I was like, oh shit. First off, I didn't know she was this good of an actress. And second off, are we acting? Or I wasn't ready. And she wouldn't stop. It was like 10-minute barrage. And then she was like, you want to fucking keep playing? Or you want to, and I don't want to play no more. I don't play anymore. So I think my point is like, practice, push yourself, expand what you think you know. You don't know anything. You're all, and you never will. You literally will never know anything. You're dumb. Just think of, I mean, don't think of yourself as like emotionally dumb. You should be emotionally rich and beautifully, emotionally sensitive and empathetic and tolerant and intelligent, while assuming you know nothing about this job. I don't care how good you get at this. I don't care how many awards you get. You suck. And it's not about being good or bad. It's just about constantly pursuing. It's not about, and that's it. It's not about being good or bad. It's about fulfilling what your goal is. If I, Chris Chalk, want to be better at acting, that has nothing to do with my career growth. Nothing to do with it. That has to do with being a better actor. As we said before, being good at this is almost, it's not irrelevant, but you can work and just be off the street. We're like the only job that they let have. I'm like, why do we disrespect our career so much? That's a whole other conversation. But you should constantly be pursuing your personal life based on your goals. You should be pursuing those things that are on your goal list, but most importantly, in regards to acting and artistry, pursuing the limitless. How do I move out of my way? How do I just keep getting out of my own way? How do I let my ego go? How do I become better at crying? How do I find deeper emotional range? How do I write better? What classes, how do I make money? That's studying finance. And if you ask yourselves the questions, you probably know the answer. And if you don't, Google does. Like, that's the beauty of this day and age. Like, if you don't know something, the internet knows. It did, some other asshole did the work by asking, and some other asshole did the work by answering. All you have to do is plug the damn question in. So don't be lazy. Ask questions. Never think a question is bad. Manipulate casting directors into loving you. Surround yourself with dope people who inspire you, and what people say doesn't matter at all. It matters, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter one bit. Somebody who doesn't like you, who gives a shit? There are a lot of really fancy people who make big decisions who don't like my work. I don't care. Because there are also big, fancy people who love my work. And I also don't care about that, because now I'm in the industry and I'm in the system. I'm in the system. I'm going to be cycled throughout this system until the system breaks. That's just how it works. Once you're in and you're in on a certain level, you're in. You might not be doing everything I want to do, but I'm in. And I know how to work forever. Now it's about finding ways to create things that are greater and better, and hence our film, hence the work on Perry Mason, the work in the upcoming movie in January. It's things that used to feel aspirational, and now they're my life. And I feel very lucky that that is my existence. Not lucky, prepared.
Go ahead.
Yes, Omar. Yes, Omar.
Chris, oh my God, you rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
You are a G. Now I have a question for you. Where are you coming? When are you coming to Williams to teach acting and general philosophy of life? Do not disappoint me. Don't send me into unknown future. We need you now. I need you now.
I don't know. I'm
Chris,
always open.
Chris,
I'm open to do
please.
it on a, I can't do it permanently because I like my job too much, and I wouldn't like teaching if I did it every day. But we're moving upstate eventually. We're moving upstate New York eventually.
And this is where I find you.
In the next year, our goal is to be upstate New York, which makes me incredibly accessible to you.
Fantastic. We'll chase you. That was incredible session. Thank you very much. One extra question, because
Yeah.
I saw that you have a great flavor on your plate. Very often you allow yourself to be lost in the sauce.
Yes.
You're just you're just giving us answer, and then you're like, so where I am. Is that the method acting?
No, that's just me. I know my I think this is my gift, which is I let my mind do what it feels like doing, and it usually gets me where I want to go. And I've just trusted that more and more. But that does mean if I stop thinking and just keep talking, I forget totally why I got where I was
Let me
going.
tell you, that is indeed a gift, because you're inspiring attention from those who are interacting with you. It's not
good.
like take it for granted. It's like, are you actually guys listening? And I was like, so that's really effective.
That would be clever if I did that on purpose.
Really effective. I think I will. If you allow me, I beg, just let me borrow this copyright, and I will.
Do it.
Next time I have a class, I'll be ready to be lost in the sauce.
Do it, and then just be like, and where was I at?
Yeah.
Oh shit! Oh my god!
And what's your name?
Broke this down.
Which class is that? And what are we doing here? Which pandemics?
Doing it on purpose now.
Voting
Very
for
good.
whom? Oh wow!
I like that.
All right. So welcome to the club. Thank you very much. That was incredible. And I'll chase you and until I find you once again, and hopefully we'll have you back. All the best to you. Fingers crossed for Germany and other trips and other productions. And please say hello to your beautiful wife. And we wish you both the big success, which you already have. So
I do. I thank you. And my email is chalkchris@yahoo.com. If you have any questions.
Now you will get into troubles.
Well, you know what? I've given it to thousands of people, and only hundreds have written me.
Okay, I don't have time to talk to you because I have to write you an email. Now
yeah, write me an email. Chalkchris,
CHALKCHRIS
@yahoo. Thank you all so much.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. See you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.